So the market for affordable quality optics is arguably better than it's ever been. A lot of people are getting into that precision rifle competition stuff, long range precision stuff, whether it's bolt action or gas gun like an AR-15. And it can cost a lot of money. And if you're trying to do something kind of on the more affordable range, the optic is where you can save a good bit of money, because some of them get up to $2,000-3,000, but there's a ton of good options in that sub $500 category, and this is one of them right here. This is the CVLife BearSwift 5-25x56. It's got a 56 millimeter front lens, 5-25 zoom, 34 millimeter body. It's got a mil Christmas tree reticle. It's got mil turrets. All the cool stuff that go on with it. It's a great price, and with the discount code that may or may not be below, you could use that and get an even better price on this already affordable optic. All right, guys, before we get too far into this review of this scope, comment below whether you like mil or MOA better, because I've got a little bit of both. I've got some mil, some MOA. I'm kind of impartial. I'm kind of new to this whole long range type stuff. So let me know which one you like better, whether it's MOA or mil reticles and adjustments and all that stuff. All right, so this is the CVLife BearSwift 5-25x56 millimeter scope. Has a 34 millimeter tube, has locking windage and elevation turrets, and it has a mil reticle. This is all that comes in the package right here, which pretty nice little box that it comes in. It's got styrofoam in the bottom. Everything's packaged really nice. But in the box, you get the scope itself, flip caps for the rear and for the front, which is already on here. You get a sunshade for the front, which is pretty nice. These two scope rings. These are actually decent looking scope rings. They're a lot better than some of the other ones I've seen included in scopes. They have two locking screws right here, two recoil lugs on the bottom. They've got some material taken out for like weight savings, I guess. They're 34 millimeter to match the scope tube, and they are kind of high, maybe for like 1.5 inches for like AR-15 style guns. I'm not going to use these because I want some lower rings for what I'm going to use this for, but I wouldn't hesitate using these, at least try them out, because like I said, they look pretty decent and they feel pretty good. You've got your Allen wrench or your Torx wrench for all of your screws on your rings, which the top cap screws and the locking lug screws are the same screw, so that's nice. The little magnification ring knob or throw lever, it's also nice because when you've got a lot of magnification to go through and you've got to turn this ring all the way around, it just helps to have that little bit of extra something to hold on to help you turn it. Little bitty Allen wrench, that's going to be for the locking turrets. You can take these caps off. It's got 3 screws around. Take the cap off, adjust the zero stop, put the cap back on and tighten it up, and then you've got your zero stop. You can dial up and stop on that zero. Then you've got a couple pages of instructions and information we'll go through right now. So like I said, the BearSwift 5-25x56, first focal plane, forgot to mention. This is in mil. You can get it in MOA if you like that better. I chose to go with the mil reticle. The turrets are mil, 1/10 per click, and the reticle inside, which is that right there, the Christmas tree, it all matches mil for mil, which is nice. So here's some of the features: 6 levels of illumination. It's not quite daylight bright, but it's not designed to be. It's mainly just for like low light, so you can see that center reticle. Or for like lower magnification, you can find that very center dot pretty easily, even in the daytime. So it just goes through some of the other things. Here's the features: magnification range, tube diameter, the clicks, parallax adjustments from 10 to infinity, which is pretty nice. What it's made out of, it weighs just shy of 31 ounces, which is not bad for a scope with a 34 millimeter tube and this level of magnification. That's right on par. You can see kind of the field of view, the adjustment range, all that sort of stuff. And then there you go. There's the reticle up close. Gives you all the measurements for the tick marks and the center the center dot, which is 1/10 of a mil, which is nice. I like having that really fine center dot. Windage and elevation adjustments, like I said, this goes nice pictures of how to set your zero stop on your turrets. And the other sheet here is mainly just some instructions on how to zero the scope, some maintenance, and some troubleshooting type stuff. It's nice to throw it in there. All right, so let's look at the scope itself. You've got the focus ring on the back. You can adjust that to your the ocular lens to your eye, whatever you want, in and out. This is your magnification ring from 5 to 25, 34 millimeter tube, 1/10 mil clicks. Very nice clicks. They feel good. They sound good. This is your parallax right there. It goes from 10 all the way down here. I don't know if it'll focus. All the way up to infinity. It does spin pretty nice. I've seen on other scopes that the adjustments on the parallax are way more spread out, which is good and bad. It's good because you can really dial it in, but it's bad because you have to turn this thing a lot to go from like 100 to 500. And really, you're just going to turn this, you know, from 100 to infinity is just this right here. So you're just going to kind of adjust it to, you know, what looks good through the scope. It doesn't really matter the range right here. Just turn it to make it look good in the scope. You've got your windage. It pops out and turns, and it goes back in. This is locking. This is not, but it does have that zero stop, so you can put it back where it was. Front cap right here for that big 56 millimeter front lens. The length of it is just short of 14 inches. It says 13.7, so that's not bad. It's fairly compact. You've got a decent amount of range on the tube right here for mounting your rings and getting your eye relief set. I've seen some that don't have very much, and some have like a lot, and the scope is really long. But this is you know, pretty good amount, but still keeping the scope fairly compact. The illumination knob on the side right here, it does have little off marks in between. So when you turn it on, like from 5, you can just cut it off with that. You don't have to roll it all the way back to 0, which is kind of nice because you know, it's just real quick on and off. It does turn fairly easily. I've seen some others that really have to crank down to turn the illumination on, but this turns really nice, really easy. Parallax, real nice and easy. This is kind of stiff, but once you get it mounted to the gun and you put this little lever on here, it'll be just fine. It won't be a problem at all. So there it is, the BearSwift 5-25. All right, so real quickly, I kind of wanted to show y'all the process of working the zero stop on this. I'm out here shooting it, getting it zeroed in. I think I've got it kind of where I want it. But anyway, when you take this off, this cap right here has 3 little set screws all around it. Pop it off, and then underneath will be this little ring right here. And you see that little nipple on the ring right there? It interfaces with this nipple right here. And you want to make sure you put it, when you slide it down over there, just got to get past all that stuff. You want to make sure you get that nipple on this side of it, the left side. So when you're dialing back to 0, see how the numbers are? You're going to dial back to 0. You're going to be going this way. So you want that thing to stop when it turns this way. So get it where you want it on the rifle, butt it up against there, and then take this little microscopic Allen wrench and lock in the set screws. Take this guy, line it up, make sure 0 is straight back. Very gently slide it down over, lock these set screws in, and your zero stop is set. And all this stuff in here, is this gold stuff, is soft metal, so you don't have to like crank down on it really, really hard. You're just getting that set screw to kind of make a little indentation in that soft metal. That way it won't spin loose. I got to get down behind it so I can make sure this 0 lines up with the marks on the turret to make sure the cap lines up with the turret, and then run that one in all the way around. I'm not tightening them all the way up yet. I'm just kind of running them until they touch. Kind of like when you're doing lug nuts on a car, you know, you kind of go in a star pattern. You just kind of incrementally tighten them up. Then you can come back and give them a little bit of love to make sure they're tight. And then, you know, when you dial up, going from like 0 to 1 or 2, you dial back, it stops every time, with a 0 being right in the back. All right, so I've been out here shooting a little bit with this CVLife 5-25, and I've got to say I'm not really disappointed in it. I've got it mounted on my my Ruger American 308. That's on my shirt. And really, for like the ranges that I have availability to, 5-25 is like plenty enough. Like a 16 is about as much as I'm going to need. But the good thing with this first focal plane is I can always just dial it to 16, and you know, you don't have to use the 25 because the reticle is going to work at either distance. And even at like 15 to 20, the reticle is big enough, and you can see the numbers and all that stuff, that it's actually, you can use it at 15 or 20 just as easily as you could at 25. It's actually better at the lower because the eye box is a little bit bigger, and the reticle's a little bit smaller. And you know, when you get zoomed all the way into 25, the lines and everything get a little thick. But either way, it still works really good. The eye box is decent, even at short power, all the way up to maximum power. And like I know some of these like higher end, even like LPVO scopes, when you look through them, you kind of lose the edge of it. You don't really get like a lot of the edge of the scope. And this is the case with this one. Especially at like 5 power, when you look through it with like both eyes open, the image in the scope is like almost the entire, you know, the entire ring. There's not much black ring around it. It's kind of hard to explain, but you kind of like lose the outside of the scope. All these turrets and up here, you don't see any of that. All you see is just a little thin black ring around the image that you're seeing through the scope. So that's really nice. All right, so the scope has a little bit of chromatic aberration, which is not really a big deal, and it's really just a fancy way of saying that if you look at a target, especially like a white target, far away, the edges are going to be a little bit blurred with like color. So on one side, you're going to have like red or pink kind of visible. On the opposite side, you're going to have like a bluish tint visible. It's not that big a deal, and you know, even really expensive scopes have that issue. Overton Windex did a pretty extensive, you know, video series on this about Night Force scopes versus Arkin scopes, and you know, both of them have a little bit of chromatic aberration, and you know, whatever. If you want to go look at his video, go watch his. But anyway, it's no big deal if you've got a little bit of that color, you know, kind of soft on the edges of the target. So anyway, the scope's been doing great for me so far. I've shot not like a whole bunch of rounds because it's a bolt gun, but I've done a pretty good bit of shooting with it. I'm just trying out different loads in this rifle, and it's done great. Like I said earlier, I kind of like to use it in that kind of like 15 power range, 15 to 20, because 25 really gets kind of high, especially unless you're shooting, you know, if you're shooting like less than 400 or 500 yards. You really don't need 25 power. So the scope works great at 15 to 20. The reticle looks great. Everything works. It's first focal plane, so it's no big deal. You can use it from 5 to 25 the same way. At 5, the reticle looks good. Thick lines on the sides and at the bottom. You can actually still even see the numbers if you look close enough. But anyway, the reticle looks great from 5 all the way to 25. It's been holding up pretty good. It was easy to zero, you know, take the caps off, adjust the zero stop, all that stuff. The windage, locking windage turret on the side. The illumination, I don't use it much, but I can imagine like if I'm hunting in low light or something, I could turn the illumination on just so I can get the center of that reticle a little bit brighter, especially if it's getting a little dark in the woods and it's contrasted and stuff. black reticle on dark, trees and stuff like that, you might need that little bit of illumination to offset the reticle. The parallax on the side, you really shouldn't have like a high power scope without parallax adjustment. It really just helps. If you're not perfect behind the scope, the parallax is going to mess you up. So you have to be perfect behind the scope if you don't have parallax. If you've got that, it's kind of, some people call it like a side focus, because really, if you're just looking through the scope, that's what it does. If you're at a long distance and it looks a little blurry, just move that parallax and it's going to focus that image at whatever range. I've got the scope sitting in a pair of Vortex rings. I can't remember, maybe they're like the Pro Series. They're not the really expensive rings. They're kind of like that mid-range. But anyway, they're about an inch. I think it says on here 1.1 inch. I think they're medium, actually. You can see how the scope fits. This is a pretty standard contour barrel. It's not like a bull barrel or competition barrel. So you can kind of see how the bell out here is going to sit with a pair of 1-inch rings and a 34mm tube. The rings have been working great so far on this scope. I've seen no shift. I had another set of rings on there when I first started shooting it, and when I got it, it just seemed like it was really hard to zero the scope. I thought it might have been something with the scope. And then I got to looking, and you could see where the scope had shifted in the rings. And I had them torqued down. I have a torque wrench, inch pounds, all that stuff, the Wheeler. So I had it sitting the way it should, but the scope just moved inside those rings. I thought it might have been the tube on the scope, not to spec. So I went ahead and got some different rings, these Vortex rings, and they seem to fit a lot better. I think those other rings, maybe the gap was very small on the sides of the ring, so when it clamped, maybe it just didn't have enough force on that tube to hold it the way it should. But anyway, the Vortex rings are doing great on this scope, and it's really a good combo, I think, for this rifle and this scope. So all that being said, a lot of rambling, a lot of details you probably didn't care about. It's not a bad scope for $300, especially if you can find it on sale, or you've got like a discount code on Amazon. You can maybe get it down to like $250, something like that. So for that price range, what you're getting out of it, it's a really good scope. You're getting a 34mm tube. You're getting a 5-25 adjustment, first focal plane, nice reticle, mill turrets, mill reticle, all that cool stuff, sunshade. Even the little throw lever, I really like this throw lever because it's just easy to grab, especially when you're rolling it back and forth. And this one on this scope is kind of stiff, so that really helps. But anyway, for that price, you're getting a pretty good bang for your buck. And as long as you don't beat the crap out of it, you're not like a Navy SEAL or whatever, the scope's probably going to hold up just fine for whatever you